who have listened, who have reached out, who have sought clarification on a number of issues. First thing I'd say is that this has been a very engaging campaign. And outside of the work being done by the party and the party's functionaries, both at the level of the center of the party, led by the leader, of course, but also at the level of the parishes and constituencies, and these numbers into the thousands, and the parties, it, of course, is them. They are the party, we are the party, and we do it with conviction. Beyond that, though, the Jamaican people, those who are have taken the time to be discerning, to assess what is being said, and those who have reached out, those who have tuned in online, I want to just use this opportunity on behalf of the team to express our sincere thanks to them, even when they may disagree or not be totally sure about a particular issue. The fact that they have reached out and we have had an opportunity to communicate, I think, is good for democracy. And I want to just, on behalf of the team here, show them the utmost respect and sincere appreciation. Over the next day or two, we do imagine that there'll be those who have already made up their minds, and there are those who are still considering. And we want to just start off by saying to those who are considering, and those who are inclined to change in favor of us, that we are still available online, through your local representatives, and otherwise, to clarify any issues that may occur or they may think requires to influence a final decision. Beyond that, the campaign has been going well. We are comfortable and we are satisfied with how we have evolved over the last number of weeks, certainly since the announcement, but even before that. We have made a case around our achievements, and we believe that Jamaicans who have been listening would be quite abreast as to what the Labour Party's fundamental achievements have been over the last 9 years. There's still demand for the booklet, which is a good sign, and we have seen recognition, whether on social media or otherwise, of persons who express appreciation, and certainly on the campaign trail. So that's all positive, and I think we have achieved that objective for the most part. In terms of the manifesto, similarly so, we pivoted to that, and that case is still being made, and we appreciate that. It's a short period, short run up, 5 or 6 days between a launch and consuming a lot of material because we have a lot to offer. And we have offered a lot in 3 documents that have shown extensive plans, plans that are very thought out and plans that are doable. And we hope that Jamaicans will make the link between what we have done and what we intend to do, and that we leverage the credibility of our achievements to win their trust to move the process forward. So that has been the journey to date. Included in that have been the mass meetings, the halfway tree, Sam Sharp Square, and last night in Spanish Town. And I just want to say that the team did well. I want to commend them for organizing and putting the pieces together. It's not easy to plan a meeting or meetings of this kind. These are national events. And the execution was well done. The messaging, we thought, came over well, to the audience in front of us, who were very energized, very energetic, very, engaging. And the feedback also, that through electronic media, the response has been also very positive. So our conclusion on last evening in Spanish Town is that it was a positive meeting, had a positive impact. And again, we want to thank those who participated. And of course, the leader, our leader, Dr. Holness, gave the charge in terms of reiterating the achievements and also encouraging Jamaicans to consider and to support the Labour Party with good reason on the 3rd. In that regard, I want to segue briefly in his comments, and I want to start with the minimum wage proposal. Firstly, I want to make it clear, unlike the others, this was not an afterthought. They have had one, two, and counting opportunities at their own, what they stand for in terms of manifestos. Main one they say, and a second one they call a miniature baby type of manifesto. I don't know what the terminology is. And even since then, they have been commenting, flip flopping as to what they stand for. Today, they're going to fund 3.5 by organic growth. Tomorrow, it's going to be by primary surplus. It's just all over the place. And, I have to describe them as they remind me of strays. Forget where they're coming from and don't know where they're going. And that's not the way to run a country. That is a highly risky experiment if we were to ever consider Jamaicans, that is, giving them an opportunity. We, on the other hand, have been very confident in our position. We speak with conviction. We have um, no second thought about what we're doing, and we're prepared to explain it all. So, in terms of the minimum wage, we don't want to be placed in their group of being uncertain because on page 94 of the manifesto, the main manifesto, of course, we have the 100 highlights. I think that's on page 40. It is 74. So on page 90 of the main manifesto, and I'll read, we will build on our record of a minimum wage increases by continuing to review cost of living, inflation, as well as our economic and employment conditions, ensuring that work lifts people out of poverty and delivers a decent standard of living for every Jamaican worker. It is in the manifesto. Now, we can argue over the specifics of it. Manifestos are not intended to give specifics. That comes after the fact with a discussion. So we're not like them, and we don't want to be considered or placed in that category. Now, the Prime Minister, in his wisdom and his responsibility to the people of Jamaica, sought to give some greater specifics last evening, and that's quite in order. And in that respect, he indicated his intentions as the leader under the next administration to double the minimum wage over a 5-year period. I want to say a few things quickly on that. Firstly, 9 years since we took office, when we took office, minimum wage was 6,000. Today, it is 16,000. That's a 156%, 58% increase. So we have a legacy of demonstrating that we can improve the economics in keeping with our desire to address living standards among the population and those who need it most in this instance. Secondly, it's important to note, and this is a response to what the PNP is claiming, because we are not like them, um, that this is a phased approach over 5 years. Prime Minister said that it's not an afterthought. That we will begin at 18,500 in the next budget, which is very doable. And perhaps most importantly, on the issue of whether or not it will impact unemployment, it is important to note that this government has never advanced one policy position in isolation of the overall macroeconomic and microeconomic management of the economy. The fact that it is being phased should also be taken into consideration with the fact that we are doing several other things that are going to impact productivity on one hand, which is essential to offering more. The renegotiation of the JPS license, energy cost is a big factor. The training and expansion of training on the heart to prepare our labor force to be more productive, the digitization of government to make things easier so that decisions can be taken quicker because transaction time and transaction cost are important to productivity improvements, the expansion of our logistics network as a country to make movement of people, early arrival at work, etc., is critical. The development of other economic activities which have already started, whether it is the special free zones, special economic zones at Caymanas, or the port facilities where our logistics hub is being built out. And I could go on if time would allow. The point that is important to be made is that we have not advanced a proposal for doubling the minimum wage in isolation of the overarching government policy to advance variables towards improving productivity. And the fact that it is being phased is also, or should also be, comfort to those who may have some concerns about cost and whether it would impact their cost of operation, or indeed if it would impact employment levels. We believe it is doable, and we are resting our case on the fact that we have done it in the past. The Prime Minister was clear to say that the country is moving now in a direction where it can, in fact, take off on a much steeper trajectory towards growth, because we have paid down the debt, we have stabilized the economy, the macroeconomics, we have addressed crime, or certainly are addressing it. And by the way, crime and security is a big cost of production, where people need multiple security guards and so on. Those things cost money. So all of those things we believe will augur well. And ultimately, at the end of the day, he was clear to say offering more to those who need it most is an overarching policy of the government to address those that are most economically vulnerable in our society. This is not an offer to those who already have. And yes, they may want more, and with justification. This is an offer for a 600,000 population that are at a stage of their economic development or evolution where they need a livable wage. And our government has always said, while employment is high, there are those in the population that we need to lift up further to get better employment and better returns on their labor, even while we help them to improve the productivity of their labor. So we believe that the PNP's argument is a non-argument, and we dismiss it. We believe that the other persons in the population, like small business operators, employers, is an argument that needs we are prepared to provide further particulars on an explanation, because we feel we have an obligation to further explain, and I'm making that explanation as an important addition. All right, I think I'm taking too long with my little segment here, so but I think it's important to make the point, because that's the primary point that I think has come out. Now, again, I say let us not compare ourselves with the other side, because their position is totally different, where they have made a proposal after the fact of putting out a manifesto, flip-flopped on how they're going to fund it. And frankly speaking, we are no much clearer today than we were a week ago after the proposal was made, or a few days ago. I'm going to close and hand over to my colleagues to my right by just saying that our candidates are working hard. They are in the field. They're tightening up for election day, which is what we do at this point. We're confident. We do take note of polls. I commented on that last night. And as I said, polls are always a guide for us. We don't criticize polls. We do our own internal polls. It is interesting that we have such divergence between the two independent polls. We have done our own reconcile with some of the positions. Sufficient to say that we're confident that we will be victorious, and that the people of Jamaica are seeing what is in their best interests, and that the Labour Party does represent what is in their best interests. All right, so I'm going to hand over now to my colleagues, to the chairman.
Thank you, Chris. Part of why the Jamaica Labour Party says we choose Jamaica is because the Prime Minister and his team have been intentional about putting in place policies which benefit a wide cross section of Jamaican society, including young people and our senior citizens. In that context, I invite Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith to provide a few comments. And no doubt Mrs. Johnson-Smith might be minded to comment on the matter of the minimum wage, seeing that she led a process which caused increasing the minimum wage to be included in the top 100 highlights of our I Choose Jamaica manifesto, and on page 94 of the manifesto document. Mrs. Johnson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and greetings to my colleagues, greetings to members of the media here and everyone who's joining us online. As always, special greetings to the Jamaican community overseas who are joining us as well, and welcome home to those of you who have come home to cast your vote. Been watching the comments online, been seeing them, been seeing you in the same way you've been seeing us. And thank you for all the time, energy, and love you continue to send. We continue to work with you, to love you, to continue to try to make processes and programs easier for you as we both and we all choose Jamaica. So let me come in on the back of our campaign chair's comment on the minimum wage and just say that, again, this has been another clear distinction between our approach. So our income tax proposal is in our manifesto, along with the budgeted plan to continue to increase the income tax threshold. So as we consider the point made, which is that our announcements are not made in a vacuum and they're not made on the fly, draw attention to the fact that our reduction of the income tax to a base rate of 15% or continued increase of the threshold, and as has been clarified, we have budgeted 2 cycles of it going from 1.8 where it is now to 2. But as Minister Favour Williams has confirmed, it will go beyond that. The only point being that we have budgeted to 2, and we're looking at the recalibration of that as we bring down the income tax rate. And it's important to consider as well in the context of this increase in the minimum wage. Again, we have almost tripled the minimum wage over the period of time since we've been in office. And historically, factual to say that it's the largest increase in minimum wage by any administration, and we've done so without no new taxes, without any new taxes. We've done so without any inordinate socioeconomic disruption. And although we understand some of the anxiety in some employers when they hear an increase in minimum wage, they not only have the last 9 years to look at as a matter of reality and fact to assess how this government approaches that issue, but they also have our assurance that the intention is to continue to, as we have said in our manifesto and our 100 highlights, to address the matter in a phased way that considers all the factors in the economy and, most importantly, improving the lives of persons who are at the lowest end of the earning scale. I want to say in particular to persons who have said 2 things that I've seen on my social media. One has been, how can you offer teachers 0% and then increase the minimum wage? And our answer is, A, there is no 0% offer on the table. There is a negotiation on the way. There is an offer that has been made and a negotiation is in process. And again, I want to revert to Minister Tufton's earlier reference, but maybe use different language or different references, that when we consider the increase in minimum wage and we think about households as well as the matter of business employers, we're very sensitive to the dynamics of that relationship, that is householders and home care. And we recognize, however, that if our policy as a government and if our thinking when we ask you to choose Jamaica is about improving the livelihood of everyone, I would also ask that we think about how we think, which is that wouldn't you want the people who take care of your children and who take care of their household, of your household, to also be able to take care of theirs? We believe that in reducing inequalities in society and building a more gentle, more caring, more prosperous Jamaica, it means that we have to be intentional about it. And it means that and rather we know that it's doable if we're careful about it. That's why Prime Minister has announced that we will move to 18.5 in the next budgetary cycle. That's just under a year away, during which time there will be growth, there will be movement. If you recall, we're also looking to bring down the cost of electricity with the renegotiation. We're improving our storage costs and our irrigation for farmers. We expect that to deal with cost of living from a food perspective. We're we have cut GCT on the electricity bills already. We still have our reduced JUTC rates, and we're taking off the pressure for the first 2 months of the school year with our students traveling free on the bus system and the rural bus system. Rural bus system is calculated at saving parents and up to $180,000 a year based on an average size family. And again, this is because we're taking a holistic approach to policy making. I want to encourage persons to not be anxious about this. In the same way that we've done it before, we'll do it again. And you can look at our record to have that confidence that when we say we'll be careful, when we say we're balancing everything, that you know that we actually are, because we have already. We're not just throwing words out there. The matters didn't just end up in our manifesto. They are there because they are things we are thinking about, and that Prime Minister has provided more details, and that we've had the opportunity to discuss matters more is helpful. And of course, I may not have emphasized it sufficiently, but when we think about raising the minimum wage and your concerns, remember that we're also bringing down the base rate of your income tax as well, so that in the middle, and everyone, as a matter of fact, everyone who is in that 25% will benefit. And that, of course, assists with the adjustments as we balance our society to really have a Jamaica that works for all of her citizens. If I touch a little bit on young people, because I've heard people asking, or rather I saw something in the paper today was brought to my attention, that there was a group of young persons who were saying they didn't feel heard, they didn't feel consulted, they didn't, not a positive article. We note that one of the persons coordinating that group of young people happens to be highly affiliated with activism within the PNP. But we note that, and we won't say it any further. We just note it, and he's there in the picture, and everybody knows him because he's in the pictures with everyone else on other occasions, and he must know himself. So, but we note it, and we actually wanted to just remind young people that we have been thinking very intentionally about you, and we have been consulting with you, and we have been listening. And this is why, for example, there are new routes to deal with security uncertainty for JUTC, and new JUTC routes to take our U and UTech students not only to school in the morning, but late routes at night for security. It's one of the very practical ways that the members of the Guild and other members of the Student Association indicated that they thought would help their quality of life and attendance. And we have listened, and Minister Vaz has included that. Your desire for a broader scope for the SLB loan to include food, accommodation, and laptops and books. Again, that came directly from you. We heard you, and it's part of policy now and will be implemented. Those of you concerned, of course, about the cost of debt and where you have fallen behind on your loans, not apart from the fact that we have already reduced interest rates and we have increased the moratorium to 14 months. We want you to remember that we have included the debt reset for you and the $100,000 credit for accounts in good standing to help you along, those who have been making the sacrifice to make those payments, your family is making the sacrifice. We're encouraging you to help you along. And this is because, unlike the other side that is hearkening back to some medieval firstborn monarchical concept, we believe that families shouldn't have to choose which of their children get tertiary education. We believe that we should have a student loan bureau that works, a revolving system that's healthy and that's structured in a way that's affordable, and in an economy where you will get a job within the period of time that we provide for you to pay. And it's so again, it's that holistic and broader ecosystem approach that the Jamaica Labour Party government is taking and will take if you trust us with your vote in a third term. Similarly with housing, we're not selling you any pipe dreams that overstate the value of a 3% reduction in a monthly payment that makes you think it will change your access to housing. What we're saying is that we will reserve 15% of every NHT housing scheme for young people. And not only will we do that, but we're not selling you a pipe dream about a grant that might maybe go to a couple thousand people. Everybody who applies, you can know that NHT schemes are 100% financed. You can get up to 100% financing. So a grant is not of the value that they try to sell to you. Similarly, you will have the new sellback system. So if you get a small unit because that's what you can afford and your family starts to grow, and your earnings grow, because remember, we're also working on a growing economy. We're not trying to stay in place, and we know how to grow an economy. And if you look at our manifesto, you'll see some of the exciting things that will help to propel that growth in different sectors like logistics and manufacturing and our creative industries and tourism. I want to just mention a point that I maybe hadn't before, which is that in our sporting sector, we're offering 500 scholarships to GC Foster College of Physical Education and Sports, so that our youngsters who are doing well in athletics or who have a vision for themselves in athletics, don't mean that you have to be earning gold medals. It means that you want to be in the sports space, that we'll be offering scholarships so that you have a viable career as a coach, as an agent, as a sports development manager, as a physical therapist, that there will be a pathway for you. And this is funded as well. So as you know, Brand Jamaica is strong. So not only will you be able to find jobs here, but undoubtedly, although we don't want to lose you, a well-trained GC Foster College graduate will have the world as their oyster once they are dedicated to their craft. So we want to encourage you in that direction. We remind you that the fees are removed, and in a third term, we would remove the fees up to level 5. So they're removed up to level 4 now. They'll go up to level 5 to give even more opportunity for our young people. Again, because we don't believe that you should just be choosing the first in your family to go forward. We should be allowing everyone who wants to go further with their learning, that they'll be able to. Apprenticeships through Heart. There's the Apprenticeship 3.0. Minister Morris Dixon may want to speak more about that. Internships, pathways to learning. And let's not forget our young people in tourism, our young people in agriculture, where our one agro park per parish is going to have 25% of every agro park reserved for young people, women, and persons with disabilities. Plus, you get a 50% discount on the first 2 years of your lease costs, so that you have the ability to enter the space if that's what you want to do. Increased assistance and support for young people in Fishers. Once you're registered for 3 years, you get additional support with engines, fishing tools, etc., and training. Training is across the board in all of these things because we believe in capacity, in building capacity. Creatives, not only are we creating special economic zones for creatives, and not only will we have our cultural apprenticeship, which will allow for you to be twinned with persons who are experts in the field, not only locally, but internationally, because we have contacts with people on both sides, Jamaicans who are doing well overseas, etc., who are excited about this project. where a stipend will be paid, but you will be able to learn on the job, build your networks so that you can then start at another level as you grow your own personal wealth, your own personal craft, and together we grow Jamaica through every sector. So we wanted you to know that even if there's an article where reflecting the sentiments of a group of young people who don't feel heard, we're speaking to them to share this information in case they had not received it. But we're also sharing to the wider Jamaica. And remember, join the hundreds of thousands of people who are visiting our website, who are looking at our manifesto, who are looking at our 100 highlights. We've had an average of 170,000 visitors per day since the website was launched. People still loving the interactive map. People are loving Bella. Please stop tiring Bella out. Bella is doing her best and doing very well so far as we get all the positive feedback. Thousands of conversations with Bella asking her to help with information. And again, this is the Jamaica Labour Party demonstrating to you that we do understand how to use technology in a way that engages more deeply and more widely with Jamaicans. I think people who once said nobody cares about a manifesto or nobody reads it can now recognize that that is not the case. And what is required and what's required of parties is to engage people in the process and engage in a way that they want to engage with us. So thank you for giving me the floor, Chair, and I hope I covered the issues that you hoped I would.
Thank you, Kamina. Just before we get to what used to be my favorite part of media conference is the question and answer session. Still is my favorite part. Today is the beginning of the new school year. We thought it an opportune time to invite Dr. Dana Morris Dixon to offer a few comments on the commitment of the Jamaica Labour Party to transforming the Jamaican society by putting in place a more improved education system which delivers for all. Dr. Morris Dixon.
Thank you very much, Abka, for that introduction, and it is really a wonderful day to be here. And I'm going to start, if I may, Chair, in relation to where Kamina just stopped in terms of youth. I just wanted to note that the Jamaica Labour Party, in putting together the manifesto, had an engagement committee. And in that engagement committee, we did spend time with young people. We spent time with the guilds of the major universities. We also met with our student council groups just to hear what young people wanted. And when I looked back at the notes, almost everything they asked for is in our manifesto. So this is a government that actually listens to our young people. If we look at one area, which was apprenticeships and being able to have jobs while they're on campus, that was one thing that came out. And I know when I met with the guild, they said that was a big problem for them, that they needed avenues to earn while studying. And they wanted the government to partner with them on that. And they actually are in the process of writing a proposal to the government that would be implemented. But we went ahead and put it in the manifesto. It's called Tertiary Leap in there, which is very much showing how much we are listening to our young people. We've also put young people, I know in my ministry, every single board that has been appointed has a young person on it. And in our manifesto, we have noted that the government's commitment is to put a young person under 35 on every single board. Now that is very, very, very important. And so that does show that we're very committed to the next generation of Jamaica more broadly. On the matter of apprenticeships, that was another area that our young people said they wanted to have more of. And in the Prime Minister's budget presentation this year, he spoke about a special one in tourism and where we'd be partnering with Sandals. And I'm very happy to tell you that we work. We don't just announce things, we actually implement them. And in that breath, we actually have the applications open for young people who want to be a part of that hospitality apprenticeship program with the Sandals Group. So PM announced it in his budget presentation in August. The applications were already open for that apprenticeship program. And we're going to be doing more of that kind of apprenticeship because we understand that you learn on the job so much more than you do in just an academic setting. And so that's the first of many other apprenticeship programs that we'll be doing with big organizations in many different sectors. Now, today is September 1, which is the start of our new school year. And it's an exciting time for a lot of children and parents. And today I got a chance to visit several schools to see how the orientation process was going, because the first days of school tend to be orientation activities. And they were going very well. Our schools have received the resources in terms of their allocations from the Ministry of Education. They got those early. Over the last several years, we've been distributing those much earlier than before. In the past, you'd hear the first week of school complaints about schools not getting their funds. That's no longer a feature of our education system, and we're very proud of that as an administration. In addition to that, there's a lot of work that was done to prepare the schools for today. And those that I visited, they had done a fantastic job in opening up their schools today. I was also very impressed, I must say, to see the number of men at orientation sessions today. Our fathers were out, especially at the primary level, and I had to comment on it because usually you see mostly mothers out. But there were, in one class that I went to, there were more fathers there than mothers, which is what we want to see in our country. And I'm seeing that feeling of Jamaica really looking different than it did many years ago. And I applaud those fathers. Because education is so important, we had put together a separate education manifesto. This is really, really important. This is our commitment to Jamaica. We're saying to Jamaica that we understand that every single child has beautiful potential. And it is our role or responsibility to unleash that. And there are some things that are preventing it from happening. But we are going to do what we have to do in order to ensure that every child has the opportunity to succeed in this country. So when you see a separate document on education, it means that this is a priority of this administration. So what are we doing? In the manifesto, you see some innovations in relation to, for example, boys. We know that our girls are doing much better than our boys have done. And in the manifesto, we actually speak to that matter because we feel that we have to spend more time and be extremely creative and innovative in our approaches towards educating our boys. We can't be happy as a country if only half of our population is doing well academically. So we need to get the boys up to the same level as the girls. And in our education manifesto, we acknowledge that issue and we lay out a path forward in relation to educating our boys. In terms of this manifesto too for education, we lay out many of the areas that we'll focus on, including looking at teacher welfare, because that's very, very important. And we've gone around to the schools and we have seen what our staff rooms look like. And so one of our commitments is to fixing the staff rooms. Our teachers have to be in an environment where they can really feel that they're respected and that they are comfortable. And so we're going to be embarking on a full staff room renovation project in addition to all of the other upgrades we're doing for our schools across Jamaica. In terms of some of the highlights, I would note, again, reading is the priority. Reading has been our priority, as is literacy. And we've timetabled reading grades 1 to 3. This morning I was checking on that, and that is in place. We are also distributing storybooks to our schools because many of our children do not have storybooks. When I went to many of our bookshops, they said they stopped buying storybooks because parents weren't buying them. So as a ministry, we committed to get them done. We did Jamaican stories, and those will be distributed so that each child has a stack of storybooks for themselves. And that's a commitment for our children. We're also very focused on special needs. That's an area that many parents are having significant challenges in. And we recognize that, and that's why in our manifesto, in our education manifesto, again, we spend a lot of time speaking about special needs children and our facilities for special needs children. And we're not just talking about it. We're going to have a new facility at Case. We're building that one. So that's in Portland, so that parents don't all have to come. We're also looking at new special needs departments in our one school today that had extra space. And we've been talking to them about how we're going to build out a new special needs department in that particular school and even have a diagnostic center there. We're not just talking. We don't talk in the Jamaica Labour Party. We actually do things. And so we've said we've made a commitment to our special needs children and their parents. And it is real. We are really going to be doing that, and we've already started that work. In terms of nutrition, there's so many proposals you hear about nutrition. We again don't talk, we do. We already allocate $8 billion to nutrition for children who are on path so that they can get lunch. We've added another $1 billion to that, and beginning this school term, which started today, we now will have breakfast and lunch for all of our children who are in or underperforming schools. So any school that is on our list of underperforming schools, they are going to get breakfast and lunch, because we recognize that nutrition is absolutely central if we're going to get the outcomes that we want. Minister Johnson Smith did speak about the rural school bus service, which we're very happy about, and that will begin on Monday. And we're very excited because many parents have told us about the cost of transporting their children in rural areas, and it really does preclude many children from getting to school, and we are doing that. We're also investing quite a bit in school. In terms of furniture, this year we're spending $300 million on new furniture. One other problem we've seen across our schools and across Jamaica, this is a problem, termites. And we have it really bad in our schools. And we've allocated $100 million for termite treatment across our schools. I also heard, quite curiously, the opposition spokesperson speaking to adding more TVET labs in schools. Now, again, that's another copy and paste, because in our Prime Minister's budget presentation, he spoke about a $400 million allocation to our schools coming from heart so that we can have TVET labs starting in our technical high schools. And in our manifesto, we extend it to all schools in the coming years. And so we again announced it in Prime Minister's budget presentation, but we've moved forward with it. And let me tell you about some of these labs. They're not ordinary labs. Dunoon Technical High School is getting a robotics lab. St. Andrew Technical High School is getting a renewable energy lab. Kingston Technical High School is getting a virtual welding lab. St. Mary Technical High School is getting a lab for robotics and industrial controls. Nakalva Technical High School is also getting robotics. Herbert Morrison is getting a robotics lab and an optoelectronics lab. Every single one of our technical high schools is getting a new lab that is top of the line. These are things you would see in first world country. We don't just talk, we do. And so that is already in train. We've already done the assessments of the spaces. We're in procurement now in order to get all these labs in place. And once we've done all of our technical high schools, we will do the same for our our traditional high schools that are not technical high schools, all our high schools that are not technical high schools. So there's a lot of work that is going on in relation to our schools. There are also several capital projects in the works. We are going to be making adjustments to 202 schools across Jamaica during this year alone. And so those are really important projects, from Homewood High, that's getting new classrooms, to Sydney Pagan, that's getting new facilities for disabled students. And that's a very important part of our program. There are so many new projects that we have across Jamaica at our schools. And as I close, and I know Chair will say, I think that's enough now, right, Chair? I just want to say how proud I am of this campaign and being a part of this campaign. I know that my children have been paying attention to the campaign, and many children have. And as I go around, some of them recognize me as Minister of Education, and we have nice conversations. And they'll tell me that what they see on TV, and they'll tell me about the debates and all of that. Our children are watching. And I know our Prime Minister said that we don't go in the gutters, we don't follow people into the gutters. And that's important. And this campaign has been one that has been focused on upliftment. It's been one that has talked about achievements. It's been one that talks about our vision for Jamaica. And that vision is one that we can all buy into. It's a vision of a Jamaica that is peaceful. It's a vision of a Jamaica where every child matters. It's a vision of Jamaica where we are uplifting everyone. In our manifesto, everybody gets something in there. You see from our household workers who take care. I couldn't do this job without my helper. Shout out to my helper at home, who is obviously listening to this. But I couldn't do this. And so everybody is important. Our security guards are important. Our teachers, our nurses, our doctors are important. Then you see what is there for elderly. When you see the new health insurance plan and you see no tax on pensions, that is amazing. And so I'm happy. I'm pleased to have been a part of a campaign that my children can look on and be proud, can be proud of us. And that's what we want in Jamaica. We want our children to look on and say, yes, I like where we're going. I see where we're going. I see that vision of Jamaica, and I want to be a part of it. And I want to choose Jamaica. And so, Mr. Chair, I thank you for this opportunity, and I hand back over to you.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you, Dana.
if
Amina?
I could just add something, sorry.
Sure.
Thank you. You have been so gracious today. and our national chair, of course, is staring into my head side. But that's another story. We'll talk that out after. It's just that in discussing how we take holistic approaches to these issues, while Dana was speaking, I remembered that I did not speak to the fact that we plan to modernize the flexi work legislation that exists and ensure that we have models of work that are more sensitive to the fact that many women are in what they call the sandwich generation, where they are not only taking care of children, but they're taking care of aging parents. And we know that a lot of this quote unquote unpaid work falls on women, even where there's a partner involved. That type of work tends to be the woman's in the family. And so the modernization of the flexi work program is going to take cognizance of the fact that working women with these unpaid responsibilities as well do need more flexibility. And we want to engage with the private sector on that, and also make sure that we have systems where the public sector leads in the same way that we're leading with an additional 20 days of paid maternity leave in the public sector, in the same way that we're leading with the first ever paternity leave program for fathers of up to 3 children. So we believe as a government, we shouldn't only talk, we must lead by action, we must do. But we also recognize that we have to work with the private sector as well if everyone is to move forward. We're also, and as Dana spoke, reminded, don't worry, it's only two things, just the Flexi Work program, its update, as well as our National Childcare Task Force. So one of the things that we spoke about is expanding our Brain Builder Centers in a manifesto. It's in the educational sector, educational manifesto as well, which again is a high-level daycare. So daycare where you don't only leave your children, but daycare where you have government subsidized hands-on care that's specifically trained to help stimulate and create the best brain, the best learner that's going to enter our educational system. And the Childcare Task Force will be operating to assess childcare needs across the piece. So even as we speak about increasing minimum wage and persons express concerns about their household care and their home care, I wanted to let our families, our households, our women know that we're thinking about you at this very high policy level as well. How do we fundamentally adjust the systems so that they're more sensitive to the needs of women who are bringing up kids, who are bringing up families, who are building families together, including your parents and even your partner's parents, your husband's parents. How do we manage an aging population in that context as well? So I wanted to just add that, Mr. Chairman, because it's part of the mix when we consider the concerns that we had asked about earlier online. Thank you.
Thank you, Kabina. Thanks as well to Dana. I was about to say that when you hear Dr. Dana Morris Dixon speak about the education sector, you get the impression she could speak all day, but that's not has no pejorative or negative connotation. It's indicative of the passion of Dr. Morris Dixon using the education system to secure better outcomes in Jamaica, and a testament as well to the fact that a lot of work has been done, much has been achieved in the education sector, even as the Jamaica Labour Party administration commits to doing more for you. Without further delay, we open the floor for questions. We have a question from Al Edwards from OUR Today.
Hello, good afternoon. Kamina made the point that the minimum wage is both fair and equitable, and I think that's should be just in any society. When you look at the minimum wage, you see the fact that it's going to put a little bit of stress on your revenue line together with the reduction in income tax, both of them. If you bear in mind the fact that growth has been 0.8% for the last decade, we've not gone beyond 2%. You're going to climb up a tough hill. Is that something you're really paying attention to? I know it's election season, but let's get into the realms of reality. We haven't been there before. We haven't really got that growth thing. We've stabilized the economy, which is commendable. It really is. The next phase has to be growth. But we're not talking about growth in this election campaign. We're talking about promises. Promises are going to be difficult to be kept. It has to be about growth. Jamaica's next chapter is growth.
Absolutely.
But we're not talking about that. We're not really talking. We're talking about, hey, we're going to reduce income tax. One says 3.5. One says less than 10. One says, hey, goodies, 32 grand for minimum wage. Growth. Growth is the deciding factor for Jamaica. And how are you going to go about it?
So I think it's, I take the point, and these things are nuanced by the policy and the soundness of the policy and the leadership. And that's why I preface what I said by referring to the achievements of the government over 9 years. This government cannot be accused of being indisciplined in terms of its approach to its macroeconomic and indeed fiscal management. In fact, this government is the first government in recent memory that has had surpluses to the extent where even in terms, we have been able to save as opposed to spend just based on borrowing. So there are a lot of reforms that have taken place that has positioned the country on a path where, with a continuation of that leadership, we believe growth numbers will improve. Beyond that, though, if you look at how minimum wage is positioned in the country. Minimum wage, remember now, is not a requirement for compulsory payment at that level. In fact, most persons pay above the minimum wage. It's really an indicative position, although by law that says you shouldn't pay below. And I would be prepared to say that most companies pay above the minimum wage. That's one. Secondly, the phased approach is very important because there's a tendency to reference the 32,000. But the 32,000 over 5 years is a very different look from saying 32,000. And the initial increase is 18,500 from 16,000. That's $1,500. So you would have to start by at least calculating the impact of that. So it's an incremental over time. Now, it is also, if you look at the projections coming out of the BOJ and the PIOJ for the growth trajectory to continue an upward movement, that also has to be reconciled against what is on offer because the economy is projected to grow. And then beyond that, the final point is what we have said based on our manifesto, the follow on to things like the energy cost, which we hope to negotiate to bring down the factors of production, the improvement in the factors of production. We know as a government that productivity ultimately is the driving force, both of growth, but also of how the human capital is compensated. But productivity is determined by several variables. And that's why the manifesto is all encompassing and tries to address all those variables and do so in a way, as outlined in the manifesto, that reflects an increase in the minimum wage based on inflation projections, based on poverty, based on a number of things. So I think those are important. And then the final point I want to raise is that we're close to optimum employment in the population. Employment levels within, 8%? Unemployment is 3.3%, sorry, 3.3%. While there's an engagement of the population now, 68%, 1.4 million based on the overall labor force as an engagement of about 68%, which is the highest it has been, as I understand it. The incentive to pull others in the labor force, which is necessary, has to be also a combination of our capacity as a government to provide the incentive for training, but also the compensation to attract them in the labor force. So the labor force right now, Al, is going through a transition. In other words, there is competition or greater competition for labor. So there is a natural occurrence that is taking place in terms of increases in wages. Because if you do your anecdotal checks, you'll find that a lot of people want labor and labor of a particular skill set and they can't find them. Labor is scarce. And so there is a natural organic occurrence that is taking place where the price bidding around labor is in fact taking place. And when you factor all of those things, which is why I say you can't look at it in isolation, there is more than enough justification over the next year for a $1,500 increase, $2,500 increase from 16 to 18 and a half, and then further planning to get to 32 over 5 years. Unlike the others who have proposed starting in the next budget, an approach that they can't explain, and they have been giving several reasons as to how they would fund it. So we believe our program is a lot sounder. It's a lot sounder because of the current state of the economy, the projected state to come, the measures that are contained in the manifesto to improve productivity, the labor market and the participation rate, and the need to pull others in the labor force, and of course, ultimately to improve livable wage, which we believe every progressive economy needs to aim for by helping those at the bottom of the wage scale to go further up.
And just quickly in support of Dr. Tufton, I've heard that commentary coming from some stakeholders in society, including the opposition, Peter Bunting, about 0.8% expansion in the Jamaican economy over the past 8, 9 years. What is missing from that narrative is the factor of COVID-19, which decimated the global economy and set Jamaica back, including the all-important tourism industry. In 2018, the Jamaican economy grew by just under 2%. We were on the right trajectory. But what is also a fact is that the Jamaican economy has recovered, and some pundits across the globe have credited the administration with causing the Jamaican economy to recover faster than many, many even more powerful economies. So we're on the right path, despite the ravages of Hurricane Beryl as well.
Abka, let me interject a quick minute.
I want to just take a question from another media host.
No, I just want to. I'm not as young as most of them there, but you just addressed the question I was going to ask. So let me just ask it now. One of the things is, under your administration, you accomplished something very notable. The country faced a social crisis, a financial crisis, a health crisis, all at once. In the history of Jamaica, it's never faced that. You managed, anyone would say, anywhere in the world, to say you dealt with it. You showed the ability of your administration to deal with that. You haven't really said much about that in your manifesto. How you managed to accomplish that, the way you did it, is a testament to the ability of the administration, but yet you haven't really said much about that in this campaign.
May I take that? So thank you so much.
I want to talk about growth too.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to just touch on growth as well, because so here's the difficulty. There's so much that just to have the information presented in a way that's consumable is challenging. But we dealt with COVID primarily in our achievements document. So we put the highlights of the big ticket, how, the development of ends, transforming how delivery now takes place. Delivery is a big business now. What we provided in terms of care and support, the 20 billion care program, how we ensure that no public sector worker lost their job. We incentivize the private sector to keep people on. We created the global tourism resilient corridor, and coming out of that, we created the the World Tourism Resilience Day. In the UN, it's now celebrated on February 17th, and Jamaica is recognized as a leader now in how you deal with resilience. And we have global resilience centers all over the world. We have it there, and it's in our manifesto, just a snapshot of it at the front of the manifesto, a gentle reminder in total summary that understates the real work that took place in order to take us through and to make us a model for how governments deal with crises and how developing countries deal with crisis. But I also wanted to just mention, in terms of growth, as on your point that we haven't been speaking about it, that there are a lot of things that we dealt with in our achievements. And if you look in not the 256, not the record achievements book, but the ministry highlights book, which actually provides more of the meat of what we did. There is where you'll find what we have done and what we've started in the port infrastructure. So the expansion of Kingston Wharves is not necessarily in the manifesto because it's mentioned, but it's not there as a prospective program because we've started the work. So the expansion of storage, which is going to help us to take advantage of changing trade laws. The expansion of the Westlands, which is all of the section of lands to the west of the ports. All of that is now being put into play. The special economic zone that's being expanded, the Caymanners, and how we're going to connect that by road and by other means as best as possible. These are things that are going to really transform growth in maybe 18 months. We're looking at the fact that we're not just talking about logistics and expanding what's happening at CMU, but we're creating skills councils that focus on how we ensure that we're matching training, academic qualification, as well as labor needs in logistics, manufacturing, and creative. So specific councils that will include public and private sector stakeholders to make sure that we're getting all the right information to calibrate all of what we have done in COVID, before and beyond, has been a finely tuned, I think PM used the term, that's finely tuned economy. These things are not, they do not take and cannot manage policymaking on the fly. They do not manage flip-flopping. They do not manage a mindset that says, oh, we're going to phase in our 3.5. And then within 24 hours says, oh, we're going to put it in on April 1. And we're changing the mechanism. It's April 1, but we're going to use organic growth over a 3-year period. We still can't max out that one. And then, you know, later in the day, it becomes, or within another 24 hours, it becomes, no, you're going to be, you're not relying on growth, you're relying on fiscal surplus. That is as demonstrative as it is possible to be demonstrative of policy making on the fly, of ill thought out policies, and of sort of, you know, just the most vulgar vote buying or vote catching. Let me not call it buying, but desperate vote seeking behavior. This, we had our, everything is calibrated in here, and we might not have put in the details, but we put in the things that we think about around minimum wage. And we have a record to prove it, because we have done 158%, the largest increase in minimum wage over the life of any administration. We have done it in a way without socioeconomic disruption. And we therefore, again, we say not to boast. None of our achievements are about boasting. They are about saying to the Jamaican people, we are capable. You can trust us. We are intentional, we are thoughtful, and we work really hard to try to get things right. We're not perfect. And, you know, there are things which maybe we still have not yet achieved, but you know that in this Labour Party government, if you trust us with your vote, we will deliver for you, and we will make sure things are carefully calibrated to deliver the results that we intend.
Thank you, Kabina. We have a question from Andrea Chisholm from Television Jamaica, who will be followed by Mahiri Stewart from the National News. Andrea.
Okay, very quickly, I note what you said, Dr. Tufton, read the specificity lacking from the manifesto. But I can't help but wonder, for the income tax reduction, the JLP was specific, 25 to 15% over a period of time. But for the minimum wage, there was no specific amount there. So my question is, how do you respond to criticisms that this is not just an election ploy? And why wasn't the specific in the manifesto? That is one. And secondly, how did you arrive at the $32,000 figure? Was the minimum wage commission, for example, consulted, or what?
Well, we in developing the manifesto, as was said earlier, there's broad consultation. Minister John Smith probably can comment on how broad that was. Remember, now this is a political organization that's developing a list of policies for the future, and while official agencies provide support based on what is in the public space, we don't really engage civil servants to determine what the political organization is going to do going forward. We use data that is available in the public domain. We have our own advisors who are professionals, and we consult with groups to the extent that they are interested to be consulted. But you have to be careful how you get into manifesto building involving ministries and ministry personnel, for fear that you are accused of politicizing these organizations. So one has to be careful of that. But having said that, you know, our manifesto is grounded in significant research, a lot of work over an extended period of time. And in the manifesto, if you look, not everything there has specifics. Some things are more specific than others. The decision around doubling is a projection, and it's a projection based on where we're coming from, what we have achieved over that period of time, and where we think we are going in the next dispensation, using the same discipline that we have applied in the past to project for the future. And that's the confidence that we have expressed by placing those numbers, but importantly also phasing those numbers. So that's why we have given a figure for the next budget. And that's why we have said, this is what we will do ultimately. Now, the fact that we have raised 58% over the first period. And this is a period, by the way, where for the first term, we had to contend with debt that we wanted to bring within a certain level, compensation review, which was a mammoth task, which is still ongoing. And then, of course, hit after that by COVID and all the other challenges that Al mentioned earlier. So we have been able to raise minimum wage by 158%, having stabilized the economy and are at that point. I think that experience alone gives us the confidence that we can build on what we have based on what we have said here to get to the next stage. And that's the basis on which those decisions were arrived at. So the Prime Minister articulated some specifics that he would have already had in his mind, and certainly through discussion, but we didn't want to publish a 500-page manifesto. It just happens.
I could.
We could, right? Yeah.
Let me know if that's what you want us to work on.
But there's another reason which probably may be relatable. I mean, if you think about the choices that the people will make on September 3rd, I think it's important, given that that side have positioned themselves in terms of a give back, that we also clarify, because people are making a decision. And I think it's important for people to consider the options that are available to them. That's the nature of democracy. So we thought too that it was necessary, if there's any doubt, to clarify in the minds of any of the people that our position is to cater to all of the people. And you cannot pursue a strategy of growth and development to acceptable levels where you have full employment, where poverty has been reduced, where crime is going down, where we're modernizing, and not consider the lowest base of the society, working base, which is a big number. And so we wanted to emphasize to the Jamaican people that population, that segment, that 500,000-600,000 segment, are being catered to, just as we did in the last dispensation, hence the need for the specifics of it. So, I mean, the cynics will say otherwise. The doubtful will want clarity, and we respect your desire for clarity. But like I said, we have done it before. We know we can do it again, and we're confident in that reality.
Yeah, and on the matter of a political gimmick, I heard a member of the opposition at their media conference use that term to describe the announcement made by the Most Honorable Dr. Holness concerning minimum wage. And I draw a comparison. The opposition in 2016 took a strong stance against a downward revision in the number of people who pay income tax, describing it as unworkable, impossible, inflationary. Yet, a few years later, members of the opposition, including Dr. Peter Phillips and Mark Golding, they attended upon a meeting in Montego Bay and they spoke about a downward revision just a few years after lambasting that policy of the Jamaica Labour Party as unworkable, yes, impossible, inflationary. And that proposal was not contained in their manifesto. If ever there is a political gimmick, an example of political gimmickry and hypocrisy, it is the changing narrative and convenient principles of the opposition concerning this matter of income tax. That's one. The Jamaica Labour Party concerning minimum wage has been consistent. We have increased the minimum wage significantly by 158%. We included the proposal to continue the increase in minimum wage in the top 100 manifesto document and in the substantive document. The Prime Minister gave particulars concerning that plan. So that really, the fact of consistency and performance over the years and the inclusion of this in our manifesto really undercuts the argument about a last-ditch effort at winning votes. We are consistent in terms of our posture regarding minimum wage and making better the lives of the people of Jamaica by putting in place policies to achieve exactly that. Next question, Mahir Stewart, Nationwide News.
I don't think this is gonna
Good
go much longer,
afternoon.
but okay.
Last week, we did see an incident in which bomb threats took place at many different government buildings across the country, and it somewhat interrupted the voting process for members of the security forces et al. And the JLP General Secretary did put out a statement blaming what he says were PNP elements on the threats. Now, the PNP responded to this response saying that based on the fact that Dr. Chang did not make reference to any police reports or any intelligence, according to the statement, he quite just blamed it on PNP elements. And as such, they condemned him for the release. What's the JLP's response to that response?
Well, to appreciate Dr. Chang's comments, one has to look at the period of campaigning and the incidents that some in the glare of public view that have transpired to date. There have been an incident involving an assault or attempted assault involving North Central Clarendon, involving our candidate, Robert Nestor Morgan, not assaulting him, but his support, and a police. There have been the incident in Portmore, where there was a deliberate attempt to block the pathway, which is clearly provocative and indeed illegal, a public thoroughfare. There have been a few others. The burning of posters. We've seen persons threatening and posting it literally. So there is a pattern of aggression by the PNP and their support. And indeed, some of the rhetoric on this stage is also quite alarming to me. And I've said it before. I've said, in assessing the campaign to this point, one of the most consistent feature of the PNP's campaign is not their policies. It has been very incoherent. It's not even their strategy around how they reach people. It's been the aggression and the anger that is characteristic of almost every platform speaker. So on one hand, they convert, and again, it's not my business. That's their problem, but I have to articulate it since the question was asked. On one hand, they transition from what is a serious conversation about the future of the economy by having it as a comedy show, starring, what's his name? Damien, right? A gentleman who has established a goat farm in the wettest parish of Jamaica, by the way. Goats don't do well with wet. On the other hand, there is the issues around literally threatening language, accusation of corruption without any evidence, as is being done consistently by both from the leader as well as his immediate followers, meaning Peter Bunting. I mean, even Julian, my friend, has weighed in on that conversation as reflected in the debates, accusing all and sundry in the JLP of being corrupt without one shred of evidence, talking about illicit this or illicit that. It's a pattern, it's a narrative. And as I said, it's a very angry campaign. And that's not what modern democracies should be about. And that's not what the people of Jamaica expect. We, on the other hand, have tried in the best of, even in challenging times, to maintain a sense of decorum, to focus on the positives, to look at the people and what they want. And I will agree, when the isolated cases where we think we, may have been a little harsh, there are internal mechanisms that have reigned in our own support base to say, listen, let's keep focus, keep on track. And I think for the most part, 95, 98% of the time, that's what we have done. So I think you have to weigh the comments from Dr. Chang in the context of the pattern of the PNP in terms of their handling of their campaign, which leaves us to question sometimes some of the things that they do, why they do it, what's the motive. And indeed, where it borders on being disruptive or indeed illegal, then we take whatever action is necessary. All right. I'm going to have to leave now, but my colleagues will.
When I look at the stage here, Chris, Minister of Health, you've been there for 10 years, probably one of the longest serving Minister of Health in the world. Yeah, I'd say, I'm putting it out there, pretty good job with the COVID. Kamina, no doubt with Foreign Affairs, very good job. Dana's just taken on the portfolio for education. I'll go there. She has a clear vision of what she wants to accomplish and do, right? So basically, if you're talking team, you've got a deep bench. Say you win come September the 3rd. You're going to need consistency and performance to execute on growth. What the fear is, the Prime Minister juggles the pack. The cabinet says, okay, well, I need to put probably someone else in one portfolio. You three hold significant portfolios. Don't you think that may stymie that consistency in performance? Consistency in performance is based on the ability of an administration to go forward. You need that. So is that a worry that, you know, politically people want to juggle the pack, move people from different portfolios, and you're back to square one?
Firstly, I thank you for what I thought was a compliment on the team. Can you deliver a message to your columnist, HD Helps, to reconsider his conversations around how abysmal failure we are? Because I think he lives in a different world. Well, I'm just saying, because you gave me the opportunity to say it, so I'm saying it. Otherwise, I wouldn't. Beyond that, though, you know, the simplest response to that is to say that the most honorable Prime Minister or leader of the Labour Party has, in his judgment and wisdom, as it is his fiduciary responsibility and his authority so to do, put together a team, and in keeping with what you have said, that team have delivered in the last 9 years. I am trusting, and I believe the Jamaican people must trust that very same judgment, which is a more experienced judgment, having gone through the last 9 years, to put the team together again. I will not second guess him. That's not my duty. That's not my role. But if he did it before, I'm sure he can do it again. And I think that's probably the simplest way to respond to that. And we ask the Jamaican people to do likewise. If they believe we have done well, despite the circumstances. And it's an important point you raised about COVID. There was a time when every single Jamaican felt that COVID would take them out. Mm-hmm. There was a time when every single member on the planet, even if you didn't believe in it, felt that COVID would be a problem. And, you know, I hear some of the rhetoric on the other side, including the spokesperson on health speaking, and you should check his track record around COVID. There was a time when I believe, and I hope I'm not mistaken, I don't want any more lawsuits, though I'm prepared to defend them. You know, there was talk of these alternative medicines, putting salt in a mask to prevent the virus. Then sometime some implicit insinuation around vaccines and the efficacy and the use of vaccines. We have been guided despite all the noise, and everybody's entitled to an opinion, especially in today's world. Everybody's a journalist. We have been, or a wannabe journalist, sorry. That's a better phrase.
You know, like I say, every lawyer is not a lawyer, is not a lawyer. Every journalist is not a journalist, is not a journalist.
But we have stuck to the science of medicine in the case of health. And we have stuck to the principles of good, sound management at the economic state, at the social level, economic level. We may have different views. We argue those views and we come out as one. This is a team, a united team led by a leader with a vision and a hard worker who is committed. I think that's the ingredients of a good government. And that's why we have the results to show, while the others flip-flop and seems very uncertain as to where they're going. And that's why we think it would be a mistake for them to come close to Jamaica House. They still need to spend some time determining what exactly they want, but they mustn't do it on the time of the Jamaican people or at the expense of the Jamaican people. Thank you very much. I'm going to hand back to Chairman. I have to go to my constituency. My team members are very able.
Thank you, Campaign Chairman. In case you're just tuned into the live stream, welcome. You are watching a live media conference of the Jamaica Labour Party, convened with less than 48 hours to go before the polls open on general election day on Wednesday. We now have a few closing comments from Kamina Johnson-Smith.
Thank you so much, Chairman. And just to, again, in the context that we now contemplate a general election, I wanted to just focus as we bring this press conference to a close on your vote. I wanted to say to Jamaica, I wanted to say to Jamaicans that your vote matters. I've had some great conversations with some first-time voters, some who are excited about the fact that this is the first time they're going to vote, and some who are still sort of saying, should I? And I found that I've had great conversations also with some persons who maybe voted years ago and just haven't voted again since, and they're thinking about it this time because they feel that something is different. So I wanted to just take the last few minutes of this press conference to say to those people and to those who may not fall in those exact categories that your vote matters. Your vote is personal, your vote is private. We respect very deeply the care and the concern that you're taking to think about this. We note the size that pollsters identify as the quote unquote undecided or uncommitted. And we want to say that we respect the care that you're taking to think about this. We want you to also consider that while your vote is personal, and yes, again, it's private, no one knows how you vote, your ballot is secret, that it also affects persons beyond yourself. So while in our manifesto, we have the confidence to say to you, choose what works for you, because we know there are things that only work for you or that you are only concerned with. We ask you to also think about the wider Jamaica, because your vote may determine whether we go for a student loan bureau that uplifts every young person with an opportunity to go further in life, or it could be just an environment where a family has to choose one to go forward. We think our model that chooses more is better. Everything that offers more widely is better. We think that more growth is better. More water is better. More roads is better. And we think that the only thing that more of is not better is taxes. So we want to continue with more years of no new taxes. We want to continue to keep things so balanced and well calibrated in your favor that we grow together, that we build together. And so while you might not see something specific yet about any commitment, any proposal, if you haven't yet seen something where you identify yourself, although I would be surprised if that were the case, I want you to think more widely about your country, the path we're on, the path we've been on, and think that you maybe should this time vote for the Jamaica Labour Party. Choose Jamaica and choose the Jamaica Labour Party. We have delivered for you and we are committed to delivering more. Thank you very much for the time, Chair. And thank you very much to the media who has been here to carry our message throughout. We respect you. We respect the Fourth Estate. We big and build you up, and we bless you up. And thank you again for making sure that the people of Jamaica and the people overseas who are following us, that they continue to get the facts and get the information they need. And again, if you're still not decided, JamaicaLabourParty.com has all the information you will need, because it has our achievements. It has the record achievements. It has the achievements by ministry. It has our 100 highlights. It has I Choose the Next Chapter, and it has our education manifesto. It's a manifesto. I just like to call it that. So we invite you to read, ask your questions of Bella, and engage with us as we seek to have you join us in the next chapter. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And of course, on election day, we ask all Jamaicans to choose the side which has chosen policies in the interest of Jamaica and has demonstrated that we have a track record of doing more for you on election day. Put your X beside the bell. Thank you to Kamina Johnson-Smith and Dr. Dana Morris Dixon, who contributed heavily to this press conference. Also, our campaign chairman, Dr. Christopher Tufton. I believe Minister Johnson-Smith has a comment to make concerning.
I just
voting.
wanted to remind that if you are not sure where you're voting, or if you haven't gotten a voter's guide in your mailbox, or just maybe want to check, that you can go to the ECJ website. There's a query link. You can just Google ECJ. You don't have to know what the website name is. Go to ECJ, vote query, and you can check where you vote. And that's a super helpful opportunity to be able to make sure that you go to the right place. Sometimes these things change, and it's not any chicanery or anything to feel nervous about. Sometimes there's just an administrative calibration. So check the ECJ website and make sure you know where to vote. Remember, your vote is private, your vote is sacred. Nobody has the right to ask you how you voted. Have a peaceful day, have a prosperous day, and we hope that you will choose Jamaica.
Thank you to all stakeholders who have made this media conference a success, and thank you to the people of Jamaica. Have a very pleasant afternoon.